Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you. Hi, welcome to World Inkers Network. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host, and good morning to those out there and good evening in India. Today we have Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee with her book, When Rustling Leaves Laugh and Cry. This will be an interesting discussion of the book, and I want to begin this with a reading from the book. Fire Girl is the name of this poem. I was born and bred in fire and tears over millions of aeons and incensed years. I romped, raced, and exulted in ire to erase every grain of pain and mire. They cut me up into gory splinters, buried me with hate and spiteful cinders. But I birthed always like a phoenix bride, wedded to my love panting inside. In my fairy, soulful, nuptial bed, our pure mingling of spiritual spread, awakening every flowery, starry bed, I fight, challenge, but never am dead. I am the pure breath of fire divine, and you, my love, remain only mine. With this our blazing inward union, I cleanse, cure, rage, and pinion, till the stars, moon, and sun burn. My fire will rage, bloom, and eternally churn. The evil cycles from zenith to nadir, rinse with my glowing, sizzling elixir. Ages will pass, but I will still burn, in body or ever in my elemental urn. My ignited soul will perform ablutions, carry my flames of sacred destinations. The war of Draupadi was never time-bound. It will seethe till every woman's cries sound. I have suffered, still breathe with my holy fire, never succumbing to that aching gyre. I live always the chaste fire girl of Agni, to annihilate infamy and create bonhominy. Wonderful poem, Laksmisree. So thanks for joining us on the program today, and I'll let you talk a little bit about, we have Candice, Louisa, Daquin with us as well. And we're going to have a wonderful and enlightening discussion of poetry in this particular book, When Rustling Leaves Laugh and Cry. So tell us a little bit about the progress of this book, some of the accolades it has achieved for you.
This book, when I was writing it, I was not really very sure, I don't think anybody writes for accolades. But yes, I did receive quite a few. I received what's called in India Kala Ratnam Award, which was basically again for my poetry. Kala means art in a larger sense, but this was, of course, for my poetry and music. Of course, in India, it was one national award, Kala Ratnam Award, which was given to me both for my poetry, English poetry and Indian or Hindustani classical music. That was the first one. The second one was a huge one, which I don't know whether I really expected it. And it came from a very, very well-known poetic circle, I think, which is predominantly known as one which actually promotes merit with no hesitation and with no compromise, and that was the significant league, which gave me the International Rural uh, Lifetime Achievement Award last year, 2021. That was huge for me. I'm very grateful to the Significant League led by Dr. Ampat Koshi,
Hmm.
and this was really great because it is known for its literary what should I say, excellence, that
Hmm.
it respects a lot. Then came the Panorama Global Book Award. That is also quite a good
Wow.
international one. It
Hmm.
came for this book, Global uh, Panorama Book Award from the Writers Capital Foundation, which is again very global, and where among 15 global poets, uh, there were only two Indians, and I was one of them. And I was very, very uh, awestruck, let us
Hmm.
say. And then just now, I have still not collected it. It is the Women Achievers Award, for which I'm going to Delhi next week. And again, that's for literature and poetry. So these are the awards for this book. And I don't know, people say that it's not just for the book, but maybe this is the pivotal area on which these awards have come up in a kind of a foundational way. But yes, it's more or less about my poetry. And also, I think this Lifetime Achievement Award also meant art and literature. So somewhere the music also comes in, and I'm told, I'm not very sure, that perhaps I'm one, or perhaps one among very few, who combines English poetry with Hindustani or Indian classical music and ethno music also. So
Wow.
some poetry and music to me are two sides of the same coin,
Hmm.
uh, and that's about it.
Excellent. So tell us about the title poem, When Wrestling Leaves Laugh and Cry. What significance does it have to the collection as a whole? And what does it mean to you specifically?
Well, I think as an Indian, not just an Indian, yes, but specifically the Bengali ethos, it is centered around the Tagorean effervescence of poetry, And Tagore was, I don't know whether he was influenced or impacted, but, somewhere there's a great, I should say, uh, kind of a integration, coalescence between the poetry of the English Romantics, Tagore, and the ancient poetic texts of the Upanishads, where, as you have once asked me about the integration of nature, divinity, and humanity, which we find very much in the poems of Wordsworth and Shelley, to a large extent Keats also, but primarily Wordsworth and Shelley, and which is also there in Tagore. So, for me, somewhere when nature uh, is a kind of a vibrancy within me. So, rustling leaves, when they laugh, they just don't laugh. I also feel they cry,
Hmm.
and that's also the way we as humans laugh and cry, and we're also connected to the larger cosmic consciousness in the Indian Upanishadic sense, as well as the English romantic sense, the Eurocentric sense. So somewhere that comes in. But then this cry part, this negativism somewhere which crawls into this book, I find this is just objectively, when I sort of come outside my poetic circle and try to look at it objectively, feel that other than the romanticism, other than the Upanishads, there is also the streak of T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, because I'm also very, very bound to my contemporary times in a way that most of us are. I'm consciously using the word bound. We would like to be unshackled. We would like to be unshackled. We would like to go into the cosmic consciousness, which is very much there for me. But still, so there's always this negativism, positivism, kind of an oscillation, and so the rustling leaves laugh and cry like us.
So,
Uh,
Candice, do you have any questions you'd like to add to the discussion? We have Candice Louisa Daquin with us, and she's a psychotherapist as well as a poet herself, and she's worked with Indie Blue Publishing and other fine creators of literature. So, would you like to add a question to this?
Just 1 minute. I want to thank both of you. You're such great, why should I say American poets? Such great world poets. And I'm not flattering you. I must
Thank
thank
you.
you that you too, the best of my friends, the poetic camaraderie, somewhere we gel very well, and you are such great poets. So I'm very happy. I wanted to thank you. Yes, you may continue, Candice.
I think Laksmisree's work has a lyricism that I picked up on when we worked together in the past. And I didn't know necessarily that much about Tagore in those days the way I should have. And so she's educated me a great deal on understanding the depths, because English romanticism is one thing, but to really understand the connection with Indian poetry is far more interesting for me. So she's taught me a great deal through her writing. And when you read her book, there is definitely a very strong thread of divinity and the natural world and music. Usually when you read a poem, there's one layer, there's two layers, but with her work, there's multiple layers. And so you read the same poem maybe 5 times and get 5 different takes on that one poem, and that's her strength. So it doesn't surprise me at all that she's won Lifetime Achievement Awards. I think it's very much for her whole body of work and the commitment that she has to her art. It's a joy to be here.
Excellent. So, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
So, you've asked about the title poem, but what does nature, humanity, and divinity represent on a personal level to you, Laksmisree? And through the medium of poetry, how is that translated?
I would not be able to talk about others, but the way I was made to think, the way I was brought up, I was always very close to nature. And I was also very close to poetry and music with regard to the musical soirees, the poetry meets at home. The ambience, the home ambience was very conducive to nature, to humanity, to a whole group of people who were not necessarily the kind of people that you often see today in India or perhaps across the globe, where they're attached to one specific philosophical thought or one specific faith. Because in our house, we celebrated all the major Indian festivals. I will not say Hindu, because that has a lot of baggage to me also. But the way I was brought up, it was very, very liberated. So in that sense, I was very close to nature. I was, the poetic, my father was such a great, in his own way, not that he published, but he wrote a lot of diary. He read a lot of books, and he said that if anybody asks you, what is your legacy? What has your father left behind for you? You will always say, well, he has left behind a library. A library, and that is something when I remember these poetic meets, these writers meets, these singers soirees at home, the nature around, everything was. I was never cloistered. For example, I would just like to cite one example of how I got, or I continue to be connected with the larger spheres of life, is because when I was just 12 years old, and this is unheard of when I was 12 years old in those days, it is unheard of. For example, I asked my father, "You have so many books, your library is so big. And I was told in school that there's some book here which I can see is called Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and I am told that I should not read it. So what do? I asked my father. He said, "Well, I do not put a full stop, or I will not stop you from doing or reading anything and everything. But I can only tell you that if you read it today, you will not absorb what it says. Maybe later on, when you become mature, you can read it." And I still remember at the age of 12, I remember the first line of Nabokov, Lolita, the light of my life and the fire of my loins. Of course, I didn't understand so much at 12. What is the light of my life and how it is connected to the fire of my loins, the sensorial and the spiritual, how deeply they are connected. I came to grow into it. So that's the liberated atmosphere through which I became what I became.
Well, thanks for that answer. We have a couple of commenters. Thank you, Molly Joseph, and others that have commented today so far. And there seems to be a distinction between your nature and divinity poems as well, from your personal poems. So do you find that both domains are facets of your poetic being, or are they separate?
Well, objectively, if I look at them, as you say, they may seem to be a little separate. But when I write through my deepest consciousness, somewhere they are interwoven. I can't say they are totally, disconnected. I just can't say that. Somewhere, divinity, humanity, nature, as I said, the growth through romanticism, through English romanticism, the Upanishads, the Tagorean ethos, somewhere, of course, if you look at it objectively, you will find a disconnect somewhere between the personal and the universal. But subjectively, inside my consciousness, I don't think they are disconnected. I think they're quite in coalescence. I think so.
So I think we'll have Candice read one of the poems from the book as well. Would you like to do that, Candice?
Sure. So the poem I was going to read today is The Outcast. I was very deeply struck by this poem. It was beautifully written, as they all are, but this really just nailed home a very important point for me. The Outcast. Conscience spikes me deeply when I see him, not allowed to cross our demarcated threshold or enter the 33 million doors of our gods tethered to catechism in a dilapidated, dank, holy room. He can hardly combat deceit when he is shackled to pick up our crumbs to keep away from hunger. His dreamy eyes, clouded, dark, are folded and supplicant like his hands, resembling the fresh, green, timid undercreeper at the feet of the gnarled, age-old, fruitless tree. The brooms of cactus life help him to cleanse dirt with the breath of a hopeful vigilance, for a simple flash of instant salvation, with a lurking fear of a ruthless eternity, never leaving his tremorous heart. He washes our sullied bins and grimy cesspools, sweeps our dusty pathways, verandas, lavatories, frittering away his doomed hours on the dim margins of hope never to arrive. Our honorable Brahmin cook with a sacred thread, hanging like a noose around his neck, pounds painful thunders at him, driving him away like a street dog.
Wow, that one caught me as well in reading the collection. We'll take a brief break, but we'll be right back with some more of Laksmisree's poetry and with some more questions. Thanks for joining us. Remember, America Open Market. AO Market, the best digital market for humanity, is a free, multilingual, borderless market open to international sellers with various languages included. With America Open Market, you may start selling in minutes after filling out the form comprehensive dashboard where you understand your sales, orders, and customers is available. You get paid directly, securely, and instantly on the America Open Market. You can sell your house, car, electronic laptop, CD player, boombox, phone, headphones, furniture, and clothing, and anything on AmericaOpenMarket.com where all your sales and customer needs are met. Register as a merchant today. You will not regret becoming a vendor at America Open Market. For further inquiries, contact us at aomarket@gmail.com. AO Market, best digital marketplace for humanity. Welcome back to World Inkers Network. We have Laksmisree Banerjee here today with us, and Candice, Louisa, Daquin, discussing when wrestling weaves laugh and cry. So thanks for joining us, both of you, today. So Laksmisree, would you like to read some of your own poetry for us?
Yes, I can read The Lost Ark.
Wonderful.
Oh my God.
I remind our viewers you can subscribe to our channel and share our content. World Inkers Network.
Where is it? Oh my God, I marked it. Yes. This is quite a dark poem.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it has a lot of the contemporary scenario in it. But then, as usual, there are kind of an infiltration of the positive energy of life, despite the fact that it is the Lost Ark, and we know that it has such tremendous symbolism, not just in terms of biblical connotations, but how deluge has been a very predominant symbol in most of classical literature, other than the biblical part, most of classical literature across the globe. And so the Lost Ark is again a yearning. So I'm just reading it. The Lost Ark. Oh, my glasses.
Happens all the time.
That is very professorial, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When giant black shadows of uncanny winged bats befriend the skies of dark clouds, when enmeshed branches with dry leaves of withered giant trees fall to the ground amid cyclonic devilry, when the winds lose their heightened stir, when hungry skeletons, wrapped in fear, trumpeting their battle cries, fill our streets with fire and woe, when oceans rise to throttle mountains, the mad fury of spiraling waters flood our bloodied earth with no pity, when wolves run helter-skelter, while pigeons and swallows cry with whimper, when cattle run and bleat for shelter, we hide ourselves in ramshackle huts, or perhaps larger homes made for us by our forefathers without names or addresses or defunct documents, while paranoid riotous swords with bellowing sounds of lynching mobs rage and dance with Dionysian laughter, hollow, icy, and fearful we shake with deadly sobs which keep us awake, shivering in pallor and shredded wraps. The rabbits, doves, and shrunken flowers The stateless mothers, babies, and beggars, with folded hands in tremor and cold, quiver with the fever of mother old. Food, shelter, mercy, and angels have vanished with our peace to heavens and to the tenuous paradise. Waning rhythms beyond our present reach, while demons and dinosaurs roam and sway to have their feast, to have their feast with the powerful, the dreadful, hungry beasts of prey. Here there are no lives to live, now no songs to sing, no bliss or smiles to win, no parks to play around, only ropes and chains abound, only dissonance with alarming sound, as we drown in our own seas with fear of the unseen shark, rummaging forever in faith for our dear lost ark. Thank you.
Wow. Beautiful. Do you have any comments on that, Candice?
I love the way you read that, because you got the rhyme, just you pulled it out of the page. And when you read something like that, it's one thing, but when you hear it, it does come alive. So your use of rustling leaves is so accurate, because I heard that poem. So my question is, when you talk of the Upanishads and romantic poetry, and you also talk about being liberated and the legacy left behind by your father of a library, how do you think poetry opens our souls and senses? What's its power?
Good question.
It's a very good question. Well, I think because one thing which I had understood, but now in the last 1 year, I have understood much more than I ever understood in my entire life, because this whole year has been a year of struggle and strife, the worst phase of my life. And in this worst phase of my life, when a dear one was so deeply afflicted by a very kind of a monstrous disease, I could understand the power of poetry. I always understood, but I didn't understand it so deeply, and so full of that life energy, that energy of life, which I was really rummaging for. I was seeking for it, and poetry gave me that kind of survival strategy, because I could not in any way exude negativism. No matter what bouts of negativism I was trying to swallow inside me, I would have to remain positive for my dear one. And so the positivism that I got from the power of poetry made me understand that all those childhood poetry meets and those 3 4 year old that I was writing poems, throwing it here and then, my father and my mother picking it up as kind of gems or something. I was too young to understand all that, but now I understand the power of poetry. It can open the consciousness. It can liberate you from your innermost, your deepest sorrows, and it is the greatest survival strategy. If anybody could, or should, or would want to sort of, let us say, uh, investigate, examine, and see and walk into the realm of poetry, they would surely know it.
Wonderful answer. So, how do you see your role as a poet, and how much of your truth is masked in your poetry? Do you see yourself as maybe a modern pastoral poet, or because the title has a kind of pastoral sense to it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you have given it a very good, what should I say, appellation or whatever. Yes, you can call it a modern pastoral, but then somewhere, if I say just a modern pastoral, maybe I will get stuck only with part of what I want to say, because pastoral also is in a kind of a special category, So when pastoral has some specific connotations, and it doesn't go beyond those connotations. I'm not saying it's limited, but somewhere it is limited. So I would say, well, it's modern pastoral, but it's a little more than that. I think it is more cosmic than pastoral,
Hmm.
and perhaps, well, I think cosmic is the word.
Excellent. So, Candice, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, just quickly to bounce off what Dustin said. So when you talk about your role as a poet, what do you bring to the world as a poet? That's such a crucial thing. When we write, we don't just write for ourselves, do we? We write and we fling it out there, and it's the reaction of others that's so significant. But how do you see your role, given that you're an academic and a very accomplished writer and thinker? You talk about universalism and cosmic energy almost. How does that translate in terms of your role as a poet?
Well, thank you. My great friend Santosh Bakara is giving me that great interaction. She is one of my, I don't know how to explain. She is poetry and love incarnate. Of course, I think all poets, not all poets, but some poets, I would not like to name them now, but some poets are love and cosmos incarnate. So all the time, I think deep in my heart, all the time, not just now, but forever, when I'm writing poetry, of course, those shrouds and those shivers, those tremors, they occur. And as a poet, you cannot but write about them. You just have to give way to that. But innermost self is always trying to preach is a bad word, because we don't preach through poetry. I think that would be bad poetry. But, unconsciously, some message is, I'm trying to all the time, kind of say something about love. The message, the great message of love, or that great message of what Swami Vivekananda said, Aham Brahmasmi. Someone said today, don't you think God is a misnomer? It's not a right word. I said, well, if you look at it, it is a very restrictive word, because somewhere today, all over the world, God, religion, all these things have become very constricted, very restrictive. It doesn't really allow you to go beyond your whatever constraints have been laid down for you, rituals or dogmas or whatever. But so deep inside me, the poet is always trying to, shout out and almost like, break through and reverberate across the roof of the world and say, well, why don't you love, love, and love, and start writing poetry? But that's not
Absolutely.
conscious. That's not conscious.
Right.
That's something which is deep inside.
That's really interesting, because it leads on to the question I was going to ask before I wanted to talk more about Dustin's question, and that was, how does dissent offer? You've got a lot of dissent in your poetry, but it's done in a certain way. It's not blatant and ugly by any means. It's almost transformed into something beautiful at times. So what does dissent offer democracy, especially in these times that we're talking about? And how does your poetry relate to dissent as you see it?
Well, in this context, I will just read a very short poem. If you have read it, I do not know. Love in Difficult Times. I think it's page 21 or something. Dissent is, I think it's the core of democracy. This is what we need to really not just harvest, but, sort of protect, because dissent and debate can only bring up the best of the varied dimensions of democracy. And of course, in the political context, this poem was written, as you said, not in a very blatant way, but still it's quite open. I mean, I have this great spirit of dissent in me, where there is one poem called Fire of One is this love in difficult times. I'll just read it quickly.
Okay.
I think, yeah, it's page 24. The freedom, I don't know, because I write a lot of, most of it is blank verse, but I don't know today why we are in the 3 4 poems, they're all rhyme, because rhyme is something which consciously I don't use it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it does. Love in difficult times. The freedom of the water, the open azure sky, the multi-hues of blooms, the breeze blowing on high, the tides of the ocean, the heights of imagination, the embraces of brotherhood. The embraces of brotherhood can never, never die. Our boundless Mother Nature, the colors of the earth, your glare, your glare and snare cannot dissolve our ties of mirth. The freedom of our spirit, the flood of human love, the freedom of our spirit, the flood of human love. Every solace for a sigh will be blessed from above. Every human kindness, every bond, far and nigh, will continue forever beyond your cruel eye.
Wow. Excellent. So, do you have any comments on that, Candice? We have a remaining about 3 minutes in the program.
So I guess my last question would be going to the foreword, and the author of the foreword, Dr. Singh, says there's an importance of dissent in a democracy. So do you feel like a great part of this book that you've put together is with that in mind, given what you've gone through, what we've all gone through in the last couple of years as well?
Absolutely correct. It is an underlying layer, but an underlying layer which is also in a very great way, which is foundational. In some way, it is there because I don't think any. I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel. Any genuine poet can ever be one who is not a rebel.
Yes.
Rebellion, revolt, dissent, everything is a part of. It has always been a part of poetry.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Definitely, it's there. We are not the people who would just lie down and say, "Well, you can walk over me, and I'm fine with that." No, we don't say that. You can never say it. So I think all of us, including everyone.
I love the way you've interpreted that, because you talked earlier of the essence of poetry being a coalition of English poets and ancient texts integrating divinity and humanity, and you've nailed it again in a modern interpretation with the idea of poets being dissenters. So well done, fantastic.
Excellent.
You.
Well, thank you both for joining the program today, Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee and Candice. Both of you, excellent, talk today, and I want to thank our viewers as well for watching the program today. Just remember that you can subscribe to our channel while you're watching right now on our YouTube, and we have an ability to have donations given to this program and to keep us moving through PayPal at paypal.me/nyparrot. That's paypal.me/nyparrot. If you want to be a guest on the program, we'd love to have you. You can get in touch with me, Dustin Pickering, at literarycorner@newyorkparrot.com. There's our support handle there at PayPal, paypal.me/nyparrot. Any amount is acceptable. $10,000 is best. Just kidding. $10,000, $10, whatever you can spare if you want to help the arts out and keep us pushing alive and keep us moving. And if you want to send a headshot and a brief bio with a few of your sample poetry, or if you're doing prose, if you're writing some short stories or you have a novel, send me a sample of your novel. Give me an idea of who you are and what you represent, and I'll put you on the program as soon as we can get an opening slot. Thank you so much for all you guys watching today. I want you guys to go out there and do some writing on your own, and some reading, and some dissenting, and some questioning of the authorities, and some questioning of existence. And just don't forget, that's what we're doing here. We're documenting the times. So thanks for joining us. Subscribe to the channel. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing.